Hello, special beings. I'm really pleased to be connecting with all of you tonight. I'm always appreciative for the opportunity to forge a deeper connection with you all. Hi, Danielle. Thank you for your donation on Facebook today. That meant the world to me. I love you and I thank you for supporting me. You've been there from the get-go. So thank you. I see you. And thank you for all of you. Thank you to all of you for joining me tonight. My guides were hounding me to jump online tonight. And I thought I wouldn't do a video for like a month or so. I've kind of been in my own little cocoon lately. And I went for my walking meditation and I felt very much nudged to jump on, share with you the different happenings going on within the collective right now. And this is going to be an energy update that is going to be focusing on what is taking place for humanity right now, what's happening to most of you at a personal level. It was shown to me very clearly as I was walking tonight, very clear visions. And so I know that I'm meant to be on here tonight to share this with you all. Okay. So we're going to give it one more minute. I hope you guys are well. And thank you, Elizabeth, for your donation. I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure, Katie. It's why I'm here. I'm here to help, to assist you guys. I'm almost like your personal spiritual Siri. So right now, we have 450 people in the house. I think we're going to get started. And right now, there is an emotional outpouring. Okay, there's an outburst. I saw this giant finger reach down into this plane of existence and start to stir this glass to get everyone's emotions to bubble to the surface. Another vision I got was that we're like this deck of cards as a one collective, and this entire deck is being reshuffled. And what it's causing us to do is to have these uprisings of deeply buried emotions that are now floating to the surface so that we can release them once and for all. So it's like the deck of cards has been reshuffled and everyone's feeling a little out of sorts. Everyone's feeling a little out of place. And energetically, you almost feel misaligned or like you're in need of a chiropractic adjustment. Thank you, Madeline. I see you. So the theme that is prevalent this week is that a lot of your relationships have radically shifted. Now, this can be referring to a lover of yours. It can be referring to a friend of yours that you were really close with. You guys were like thick as thieves. And there's a wedge that's been driven between you and the people that you love. Some of the people that you had a really strong connection to, that you cultivated and invested a lot of time in. And whenever we decide to invest in someone and pour our energy into that, we are consciously making a choice to intertangle ourselves with them. It's like we create this unified field of consciousness. And what creates this unified field is the braiding. It's almost like a process of braiding your energy together with their energy. And as these energies braid together, all right, it almost creates this unified field of consciousness. And you can't really get really close to someone if you're always keeping them at bay. When you choose to invest in someone, it is a deliberate choice that you're going to enmesh yourself with them and have your energies, because you know you're a container that houses a handful of energies or infinite energies, and they are the same, and you're choosing to collaboratively bring these energies together, and then those energies have consciousness, and then they spawn children, and then those children spawn children. So it can be very, very painful when all of a sudden you're having to forfeit that friendship or that relationship, or when someone starts to pull away from you. It can be very painful because now all of these knots that you've created with them have to come undone. They have to come undone. And the process of undoing those knots is going to feel like grief. It's going to feel like loss. It might feel like sorrow or like pain or like sadness. And this is what's taking place right now for a lot of humans. Okay? Now, something I've been taking notice of is that in an older format of reality, you might air out your dirty laundry, or you might vent or share that this person has betrayed you. But because we've shifted so radically as a collective, right, there's been these exponential changes consciousness-wise for all of us. You're going to find that even as you try or as you attempt to talk about the situation, you're going to feel dirty. It's going to be a ricochet effect, where as you're talking about it, you're even realizing that you can't even point a finger anymore. Now, this is auspicious because it goes to show, it really demonstrates that as a collective, we've really, really increased our light quotient. And I was also shown that everyone now is immune. It's not that we weren't immune before, it's just that because we've come into a greater understanding or into a greater measure that we are beautiful divine beings, then that self-acceptance and that self-love has allowed us to have this bubble of protection around us. So if you can see everyone in your life, whether they're unconscious or highly conscious, they're all protected by this bubble to point a finger. All right? Are you guys hearing me well? Because I just got notified that my connection is unstable. Are you guys hearing me well? Please say yes if you are. Okay. Wonderful. And my voice coming out clearly? Is it glitching at all? Okay. Wonderful. So what's happening now is because everyone has this bubble of protection around them, even when you try to talk about your issues to other people, it's going to bounce back. It's going to be returned to the sender every time. Because we're no longer in a position to point the finger anymore. None of us are. None of us are. So everyone has a free will. Everyone can decide overnight to just leave you. They have a free will. And some will go about this in a very conscious fashion, and some of the people in your life are going to go about this in a way that's very avoidant, like they don't want to talk about it. But at the end of the day, they have that right. So it's important that you don't rob them of the experience that they're wanting to have, right? Because so often we get so involved and we're trying to bring them back like, oh, can we just talk about this? Can we just talk about this? And all you're doing is preventing them from having an experience that their soul is wanting to have. And sometimes you're going to take the grunt of it. You're going to be the grunt of it. You're actually going to be the one who takes the hit. Okay? Because it took a myriad of events that culminated to this now moment, and you just happened to be the last straw that broke the camel's back. And so I know that it can be painful. I know that it can suck. But please bear in mind that every single person in your life right now has a free will to do exactly what they please. And it's really difficult to take that stance of like, oh, wow, yes, like they're empowering themselves. It's difficult to see it from that perspective because you've been so invested. And there's a part of you that wants closure, or maybe you want to bring resolution to the issues that you're currently facing. But just try to the best of your ability to stay in your heart space and not judge them for empowering themselves. The message that's coming to me now is you'll know you've fully released it when you stop talking about it. You'll know you've fully released it when you stop talking about it. And right now, you still have that proclivity or that propensity to talk about it, which is understandable because it's difficult when someone decides to just abort the mission or to just drop out of this particular dynamic. It's really difficult because you're caught off guard. You're thrown for a loop. But this is a time where we get to implement the mastery, the tools that we've been accumulating all these years, right? To step into the shoes of the master and not take it so personally. And yes, there's an aspect of yourself that's going to take offense to what's taking place. And that's okay. But remember, you're here to clear some of those old victimhood narratives and some of those old victimhood programs of how could they do this to me? How could they just drop me like that? That wasn't fair. And any energy that you're still feeding that isn't fair is something that we need to examine. All of us. Now, we're not suggesting that what you're feeling isn't relevant. Okay? It is relevant. And everything that you're feeling is true. But remember, you can come from a very conscious place when you're sharing something with someone. But even if you're coming from the most loving place, when you walk away from that conversation, how is that person perceiving you? How are they viewing you? Are they seeing you as someone who still plays sides of the coin? Because again, you can come from a very elevated space and want to talk about something without attachment, but the person that you're sharing this thing with may walk away with their own filters, and they're going to misconstrue the information and see you as a victim, or they might see you as someone who still vents a lot or who still points a finger. So even though you're not coming from that place necessarily, the guides are wanting you to pay attention to how you're perceived when you walk away from that conversation. Okay, and it's even happened to me. How do you present yourself to the world? Who do you know yourself to be? But what really happens when you walk away from a conversation with a stranger or with an acquaintance and you share with them what's been going on in your life? How are they going to perceive you? You're responsible for that as well. Because unification is about integrating everything that we feel so that we become the embodiment of purity, so that we become the embodiment of love. And again, you might be divulging in a very objective way, like you're just presenting a story, but the person who's hearing you may not have done the shadow work that you've been doing. And then they're going to see you as still playing the victim, or they're going to see you as still pointing a finger. So from that viewpoint, everyone right now is shrouded in this angelic protection, and you need to take inventory of how you come across. How you come across. And remember, you'll know you fully released it when you stop talking about it. So taking the time to neutralize these energies by really acknowledging what you're feeling, right? This outburst, this sorrow, this pain, really being willing to sit with it and breathe on it, and not being so quick to anger and not being so quick to point the finger. That's going to be the key. So another message I'm getting, and thank you everyone for your donations. I see Justin. I see you, brother. Thank you. Elise, Susan, sorry. Layla. I thank you. So, and I'm so pleased to see that there's 825 people in the house right now, because this message needs to be spread. There's just a lot that's floating up to the surface right now, a lot. And I know that we hear this consistently in the metaphysical community, that things are going to be brought to the surface, or they're going to become visible in your hologram so that you can really integrate them. But this week, this is a prevalent theme. So another message I've been getting is, this is not the time to make decisions. Do not make decisions. When it comes to launching yourself, when it comes to who you should be collaborating with, when it comes to writing a book, and I talked about this on Instagram today, because as soon as you, quote unquote, bite that apple, meaning you say yes to something when you're still in a state of flux or in a state of limbo, as soon as you bite that apple, it's going to be very difficult to come back from that. All right? Why? Because when you co-sign on things, when you say yes to people and you're involving other people, it creates a momentum, right? It picks up speed. And it's no different than hopping on a train that's already left the station, and then you can't just get off the train. You have to stay on that train ride. And so be very, very cautious about what you choose to embark upon right now. Because as soon as that train leaves the station, you can't come back. There's a momentum that picks up. All right? And another metaphor I gave is, if you're wanting to have unprotected sex and you're very like, woo, let's just do this. Another version of this momentum is you end up getting pregnant, and now you have kids, and you can't come back from that. So you need to be extra mindful right now about what it is that you're selecting in your outer hologram that you're then going to bring into your life. Because as soon as you bring it in, then if it's the quote unquote wrong momentum, even though that we know that from a multidimensional viewpoint, there's no right or wrong, but there is a higher timeline. There is a higher choice. So as you're going through all of these different emotions and all of this inner turmoil, the last thing you want to do, you guys, the last thing you want to do is decide on something. Don't do that. Because you have to wait for the dust to settle, right? You need to wait for that smoke to clear in the room, so that you have coherence, so that you're operating with a clear mind and with peace in your heart. Because remember, frequencies carry over. And that's the other message I got this morning, which was so powerful. And it was relative to my teaching of being a dot. What I love about my teaching, Be a Dot, is that it's constantly snowballing with more information. So I was sitting there this morning and just pondering, and I got this very simple but profound message about being a dot. And what it was stop efforting so much. Stop pushing so hard to reach a future timeline that will then allow you to have joy and peace, right? The joy and peace is accessible from within you now, and you have to start living and being that now. All right, and I'll share a perfect example. I've been getting like these different offers to write a book and all these different things, and it can be very tempting to say, yes, let's do it. But I also have to take my time with this decision, because I know that as soon as I say yes and I embark upon that train, then I may not come back from that. And then that's going to start to branch off into maybe television shows or publishing and all of this stuff. And I have to be really, really in tune with where I'm at right now. If I'm not feeling peaceful, then we don't even think about it. And the message my guides brought in today around being a dot was, if it isn't peaceful, don't do it. Because that energy is going to then be dragged into the next chapter of your book, right? No pun intended. It's going to be dragged into the next chapter of your book. And then you're not going to have peace when that arrives either. You might find yourself doing tours, promoting your book, and then you won't have peace of mind anymore. It's going to steal your joy. So the message was, we have to live what we see in the future now. We have to embody that frequency now. Because then you're going to dissolve all the walls of separation, all right? And all you're going to do is perpetuate this insanity loop of like, oh, if I'm more productive, then maybe someday I'll retire. Or if I'm more productive, then I'll be able to achieve the success of a book or a television show. And you're always chasing the tail of the dragon. So you're not embodying the frequency of peace and joy now. You have to understand that you leave a dent in this universe when you are contributing the highest frequency, right? Frequency, vibration, it's electric, it's magnetic. It ripples through time and it ripples through space. So we have to start thinking beyond the scope of our linear minds. We have to start to think to ourselves in the grand scheme of things. Does it really matter if you write a book? It doesn't. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you embody a frequency that's so pronounced, that's so fine, that frequency travels through the walls of time, right? And if you decide to come back in another lifetime, no one's going to force you to, but if you decide to come back in another lifetime, you're going to come back with that same frequency. And you will be remembered for having upheld that frequency when you were alive. People get so caught up in the little details of, I'm the only thing that matters. My book is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters. But really, they're just micros to another micro, to another micro, to another micro. What people remember are Merlin. They don't remember what every single thing Merlin did. They remember Merlin because Merlin was true to his frequency. So the energy of Merlin traveled through the walls of time and traversed the cosmos and still lives to this day. Right? And I'm back. I'm kidding. So my point is, remember, we get so caught up in the little details, in the Russian doll that's within the other Russian doll, that's within the other Russian doll, and we're never satisfied. And as long as you're never satisfied, then you're not going to be lending a frequency that causes the walls to shake, right? You need to lend a frequency that's going to dent this universe. So back to what I was saying earlier and how there's a lot of turmoil right now. There's a lot of emotions bubbling up. This is not the time to take something on board. Let the dust settle. Restore your peace. Come back to love. Nothing else exists but this now moment. And everything exists within this now moment. Okay? Let me repeat that. Nothing exists outside of this now moment, and yet everything exists within this now moment. Meaning that if you're in a state of joy, if you're upholding the vibratory rate of peace, of harmony, then by embodying that now, that energy is bleeding into every single timeline. If you're not embodying it, then what you're doing is you're creating these ripple effects. And all you're going to do is create a different version of the now with the same issue presented in a different wrapping paper. That's all. Yeah? And then you're going to complain about being on tour. Oh, I miss my life. I miss being able to relax. Right? You're just trading one set of issues for another set of issues. That's all you're doing. Think of how powerful it is if you can just be a dot and continue to follow what feels right in your gut, what feels right in your soul. Then you become this walking portal of light. You become this walking emanation of energy that ripples through time. And you're not getting rolled up in the rat race of, oh, but I need to achieve this and I need to acquire that. No, that's very limiting. Think bigger. Think to yourself, you know what? If I don't feel like writing a book right now, I'm sure that there's another aspect of myself that I'm intuitively picking up on that's already written the book. And that aspect of who I am is telling me not to write the book because it's already written the book and it wants me to do what I'm doing, which is my magic, my wizardry, my Merlin. And so by doing me, I'm then sending and beaming a frequency to that other aspect. And that other aspect is constantly getting new downloads. And by honoring what it's telling me, I'm receiving downloads from it. You see what I mean? So you have this network of all these dimensional selves, all these parallel selves who are working together to support each other energetically. But there's no sense in having two selves writing a book. No. So what does it mean to activate our multidimensional communication system? It is to be cognizant of all these different parallel selves that are working as a team for the betterment of every individual aspect. And for the purpose of the expansion of your yous, the group of the yous that you are, for the purpose of the expansion of the group that you are. Okay? And your higher self is managing all these aspects. Your higher self is saying, you know, and you're all intercommunicating. It's deep stuff. But remember, do not, if you feel resistance, society is going to tell you you're afraid. Yeah? You're afraid. You need to overcome your fear. I say challenge that. What I'm saying to you is maybe that resistance is meant to be there. Maybe that resistance is alerting you that maybe another aspect of yourself is taking care of that and it doesn't need you to go rogue. What does going rogue means? It means that it's like a cell in your body that decides to go on its own assignment, but by going on its own assignment, it throws your entire cellular structure off, right? And your other cells are like that. You can have one aspect that keeps getting messages, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and it goes ahead and does it, and now it's throwing every other aspect off. It's destabilizing the entire operation. So do not go rogue. Start to think beyond the confines of your linear mind. I understand that as humans, we want to accomplish and accomplish and accomplish and accomplish, but keep in mind that all you're doing is you're endowing the old grid, the third dimensional grid system, and the fourth dimensional grid system with more power because you're thinking linearly. All right? You're thinking linearly. We're all making our distinctive contribution. And the most efficient way we can go about doing this is about lending that potent frequency. That frequency that carries the bass. That frequency that can travel through walls. And as it travels through the walls, it shakes the walls. So keep that in mind. You don't want to go rogue. There's an operation that you will be able to see and to perceive if you start to open your third eye. Your third eye is like an inner video. It's like an inner webcam that can see how everything ties in to form this fabric of the universe. And there's the network of you, all your other parallel selves, but then you, who's seemingly separate from me, are still part of me. We're cut from the same cloth. Yeah? But for now, don't overwhelm yourself. Okay? Don't overwhelm yourself. And just focus on the yous, your own dimensional selves. But for a minute, let me just kind of sidebar. What do I mean when I say that you are separate from me, but we're still part of the same network? Well, think of it, right? If you have someone who loves their body and they happen to be I want to say that they happen to be a little more curvy, okay? And they love their body. They love those additional layers of skin, okay? Well, that person loving themselves is actually sending information to someone who doesn't love themselves and who happens to be skinny. And there's like an infusion of angelic energy or a transference of angelic energy to the person who's skinny and doesn't love themselves. And as this person who's skinny and doesn't love themselves sees this other person who's thicker and loves themselves, there's like this instantaneous transfer of intelligence or of information that heals that person who's skinnier and doesn't love themselves. So this is how we're all kind of balancing the field. But we don't see this because we're so self-obsessed. We don't see that like everyone is contributing and everyone is partaking in this universal expansion. That's why I always tell people, don't judge someone if they're not a vegan. Don't judge someone who is a vegan. Don't judge someone who's gay. Don't judge someone who's transgender, because they're taking care of something that you can't see, and they're threading that energy back to you in some weird way. In some weird way, right? So I want to elaborate on this, but I know I can go on tangents. So I'm not going to go there right now. I'm just not going to go there right now. Self-control. And self-control is going to be essential as you navigate this next week or this next month, and as you deal and grapple with these different issues in your relationships. Because if you can't control yourself and you start to act on these impulsive emotions, you're going to worsen the situation. In other words, this person who's wanting to empower themselves, they're already not feeling safe with you, and now you're going to fan the flames even more, and now they really won't feel safe with you. So they're going to pull away even more. So what you want to do is to go within yourself. That's the message of this week. How can you stop talking about something? Or how can you, stop talking about something by being willing to process through these different emotions that you have around this person and around this relationship. It could be a family member too. It can be a friend. It can be a lover. And be willing to just hold it in your body. Hold it in your body. Give yourself love. Ask for a concentrated form of angelic light to enter those crevices in your energy field and heal you. Because I'm telling you right now, it won't do you any good to share with other people. I've tried it. Believe me, I've tried it. To share with other people what you're going through. I tried to objectively share what was going on with me to a friend of mine this week, and you won't believe what they said. They said, "Hey, Phil, have you thought of getting a therapist?" And right away I was like, my guys were like, "Yeah, let's not share anything anymore. No. Different people are vibrating and dwelling at different frequencies right now, and they're not even going to see you. And they're not even going to see that you're sharing what you're sharing without attachment. Because if they have attachments, they're going to jump the gun and say, they're going to think there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're just sharing. But I'm telling you, now is not a time to spill your guts to people. You need to go within yourself. You need to sit with those emotions, even though it's painful. tell yourself, I'm doing a service to humanity right now. I'm willing to clear through these different imprints, through these unconscious patterns, and I'm doing this as a means of voluntarily and intentionally helping the planet uplift itself. And I do that with myself. I go within myself, I zip my mouth, and I imagine that if I'm not doing it for myself, I can at least do it for others. I'm going to process, digest, neutralize, metabolize those energies. And then, like a phoenix, you rise from the ashes. Okay? And sometimes you're going to vibrate really high on this path and you're going to feel ecstatic and blissful, and there's expansion to be had there. But sometimes your spiral is going to go downward and you're going to travel to the underworlds, which is what a lot of people are doing right now. And there's beauty in that because there's gold to be retrieved. There are treasures that can be retrieved. You're excavating, you're digging deep, deep, deep within your soul to pick something up that was left behind that you're going to need moving forward on your path. Okay? There's gold there. And sometimes we resist going into the underworld, just like we resist having a cold or we resist when we have an injury. But you know what? Those things humble us. Those things force us to surrender. And yes, you may not vibrate super high and feel the bliss and the magic, but there's more magic sometimes, and there's more acceleration at times when you are being peeled back like an onion and you're willing to sit there. And you can almost hear your angels cheering you on, like, yes, yes, Phil, or yes, whoever's in the room right now. We see that you're in contraction right now, but contraction doesn't happen without expansion. And the only reason that you're experiencing contraction is because you're on the verge of a massive expansion. So keep your eye on the prize. Don't lose sight of the larger picture. Contractions are not meant to happen forever. Right? A lot of humans get stuck in the contraction because all they do is keep venting and playing the victim and pointing the finger. Contractions are meant to be temporary. You have to have a contraction in order to have an expansion, right? Think of labor. Think of a woman being in labor, right? That's the epitome of that. And then they give birth. You're giving birth to a new reality. You're giving birth to a new version of yourself. So there's beauty in contraction. And you're going to get to the expansion sooner rather than later if you accept that you're in a contracted space right now, but that's serving you something. It's going to provide you with a magical tool, and it's going to give you wisdom that you've never had before, so that you can rise like the phoenix from the ashes and come back with a bang. Come back with a bang. So let's do this together as a one. I know that many of us right now are feeling this outburst of emotions, this uprising of old energies. So what we can do when we get off this video, when we get off this live, is we can, anytime you deal with something, anytime you're wrestling with something, close your eyes and say, let's connect to the other star seeds, to my fellow brothers and sisters, telepathically, and let's hold hands, knowing that we've got this. Knowing that we are telepathic in nature, knowing that we do not need to leave our house and go tell someone about our issues, but that we can do this as a team. We are a galactic team. All right, you guys? I hope this helps. And if you enjoyed this message, if you would like to donate, please never feel obliged to donate. I'm just putting it out there because if I don't share that I have donation links, how is anyone going to support me? But if you'd like to donate, my link is feelgoodlife.com/donate. feelgoodlife.com/donate. And I will upload this now, attach a thumbnail. I thank you for showing up. I thank you for being here. Hang in there. I'm hanging in there. I go through my own stuff too. I'm human. We all have a human aspect. And as we render ourselves into these multidimensional beings, we're just going to be holding more dimensions. It doesn't mean that we're going to avoid the human aspect. No, we're going to be aware of all the aspects. We're going to be aware of the Pleiadian aspect. We're going to be aware of the Arcturian aspect. We're going to be aware of this parallel reality aspect. We're going to be aware of the human aspect. And we want to cradle all of them, right? Because we are the gods that are housing these energies. We are the gods who are holding these dimensions from within. Your human self isn't meant to be canceled out. or to be rejected. No, it's going to be held within you. But you're a giant now. You have this expansive consciousness, an expansive consciousness, and you're not phased by it, right? You have the ability now to hold all these dimensions in place because you've become so multidimensional. And that's what multidimensionality is being aware of everything that's going on, the good and the bad, the light and the dark, but not judging any of it. Rather being inclusive, not exclusive, being inclusive. All right, so I love you guys so much. And I'm sending you so many blessings, peppered with light codes and peppered with all the goodness in the world. I'll see you soon.